My name is Daniel Kwan and this is KTH Math Tutoring Club. Today we're going to talk about 2016 AP Calculus BC free response question number 3. And this also is included in Calculus AB 2. So, in number 3, this is graph of f. This is graph of f and it says, the graph above shows the graph of the piecewise linear function f for -4 to 12. The function g is defined by, so I'll write it down. G of x is equal to. Part A asks, does g have relative minimum, a relative maximum, or neither at x is equal to 10, so this is 10. Justify your answer. So, the first thing we gotta do is, as soon as we look at this, this is also 1 point. Change this, differentiate both sides and say g prime x is equal to f of x. You must write this to get 1 point, at least in any part of this question. So we now know that graph of f of x, which is this, is a slope graph of g of x, which is g prime x. So the first question is, does g have a relative minimum, maximum, or neither? Let's look at it. First, when there's a graph, for you to have a relative maximum, it should be going positive to negative like this. So slope has to be positive, negative. So, and this point will be the maximum point. And now, if you want to have a minimum point, you will need slope going negative to positive, a minimum point. And because we only have the graph for g prime x, the slope, we just need to look at its value and see if it is positive or negative. And let's look at 10. At 10, as you can see, all the other things, for example, let's look at, before that, let's look at -2 right here. -2 right here. Negative crosses from negative, so below the x-axis, negative, above the x-axis to positive, so it'll be relative minimum. From here, as you look at it, 6, above the x-axis, positive, to below the x-axis, negative. So it is relative maximum. However, when we look at x is equal to 10, you can see it doesn't cross the x-axis. It only stays at negative to negative. And that could be a critical point, but that is not a relative min nor max. So thus, the answer for part A, because it only asks about relative min and relative max, you can just write neither. And second part of the question is justify your answer. What should you do? Like I said, first put this, and second, you have to say, for it to be a relative match, it has to cross from the x-axis from positive to negative, and for it to have a relative minimum, you should cross from negative to positive. However, when you look at number 10, just write, it doesn't cross the x-axis and only stays at negative, and you must say, does not change the sign. It stays at negative. And that was it for part A. Part B. Part B says, does the graph of g have a point of inflection at x equals to 4? So let's mark x equals to 4. So this is x equals to 4. And you have to justify your answer. So let's first start with the concept of point of inflection. So when we look at just the graph of, before that I mistakenly erased it. So first, in a normal function, without any prime function, just normal function, when you have a point of inflection, it will be like this. When it's changing its concavity. In other words, so in this graph, at first it was concave down, like down, concave down, and all of a sudden at this point, after this point, it changes to concave up. And the second point, the second graph it was concave up, and until this point, it changes to concave down. And point of inflection is like a definition. Simple definition is when the concavity changes. So normally we find concavity in double prime function, which is, for example, if our graph was f, the slope function will be f prime, and the concavity will be f double prime. So now, but however, we're solving for g, right? Yeah. Does the graph of g have the point of inflection? So, and we only have g prime graph, which is f of x. That means the slope of g prime x will be the concavity. So let's look at it. If the slope at g prime x, which is f of x, yeah, don't get confused with that. If the slope of g prime x is increasing, it is concave up. If slope of g prime x is decreasing, it is concave down. So what you gotta do is think like this. I'm just drawing a random graph. At g, just g of x, if it is like this, its maximum point is called relative max. Relative max. And when we look at g prime x, this will look like, let me see, from so increasing and decreasing. Because right now from here to here it's increasing. Let's say this is 4 and this is 4. I suck at drawing graph. So from here to here it's increasing, from here to here it's decreasing. However, it's same as this. If this was g prime graph, this will be g double prime graph. Thus, at g's, let me word it correctly. At g prime x, which is the slope function, is this graph. At relative max, it will be like this. Thus, when you're trying to solve for a point of inflection and only g prime x is given, or f prime x, the prime function is given, you just have to find its relative max or minimum. And those, not critical point, yes it is critical point, but it has to be relative max or relative mean to be a point of inflection. Thus, because when we look at this, I changed from g prime x to g of x to g prime x and g prime x to g double prime x. And when we look at this, thus, because at g just single prime, g prime x, at x equals to 4, it has a relative max. That means right here, it is a point of inflection because it changes sign. It changes sign. It has to change sign to be a point of inflection. Thus, when we look at it, so here, until now this was positive and this was negative, right? Because it's above the x-axis, below the x-axis. For here, for it to be relative max, slope is increasing, which is positive slope. Slope is now decreasing, negative slope. And now, when we look at it, positive to negative. Positive, concave up, negative, concave down. I draw really weirdly, but this will be the graph. Now let's jump to the question. Does a graph G have a point of inflection like we all did? First of all, this graph is G prime X. And remember, in calculus test, they do not normally give just G graph because that is too easy. So G prime X. This is G prime X, this graph is G prime X, and it has a maximum because the slope is increasing until 4, and now it's decreasing after 4, so positive, negative slope. Thus, we can say this is a point of inflection. And when you're writing answer, you just have to say, yes, it is a point of inflection, and for justifying your answer, you can just say, because at x equals 4, the sign of the slope changes from positive to negative, or you can say the sign of g double prime x changes from positive to negative, it is a point of inflection, sorry about that, point of inflection. So that was part B, and we just went over all the concepts of relationship between g of x, g prime x, and g double prime x, and how it changes between each other. Part C. Part C says, find the absolute minimum value and absolute maximum value of g on the interval -4 to 12. Justify your answers. Oh, they always say justify your answer. I hate that. So, remember, it is absolute minimum and absolute maximum, not relative, absolute. So it has to be the highest and the lowest. Lowest, yeah, you can see that. So remember, because we have g of x and we have to find the value, actual value of g of x, and we only have a graph of f of x, which is equal to g prime x. That might be confusing, but reword it, you will understand. That means because we have to find the value of g of x, we have to integrate this back, which is g of x is equal to integrate 2 to x ft dt. And just plug in the the value x, and find the value. So when you read the word absolute min or absolute max, you always have to try those two endpoints that are given, because in this graph they said find the absolute min and max value of g on the interval -4 to 12. So you always have to try those endpoints, -4 to 12. So let's try first with -4. So g of x, this is integration, and because they give like only the triangles, it will be really easy for you. 2 to x ft dt, right? However, right now we're trying for -4, so -4. And you can say, that's not right. So what? Lower number always has to be at the bottom. So put negative there, -4 to ft dt. So when we look at it, draw nicely. I'm just drawing for your reference. So this will be our first triangle with base 2, because -2 to -4, base 2, and height 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4 again. So this will be 4. And until 2, right? So 2. So until here. This triangle is 4. That means that triangle will be 4, and this triangle will be 4, right? So this triangle will be 4, and this triangle will be 4. Because every triangle, if we just divide this two like that, every single triangle has area of 4. That's the easy part. So 4, 4, 4, which is because this triangle is below the x-axis, the actual area will be -4. And because these two triangles are above the x-axis, the area will be 8. And now 8 minus 4, 4. So until this part, -4 to 2 ft dt will be 4. However, because of the negative, g of x at -4 will be -4. Now, did I make a mistake? No. So let's write down g of -4 equals to -4. Now, let's try out 12, another endpoint. 12. Because 2 is lower or smaller than 12, you don't have to put subtraction or minus and change the upper limit and lower limit. From 2, so every single triangle is 4. For your reference, I will again divide the triangles. Just FYI, the dotted line doesn't mean anything for you if you got confused, because I'm just like dividing this triangle for you to understand better. So 2 to 4, right? So we start from here. 2, 4, 4, 8. So this is 8. 4, 4, 8. So that is 8. And what? I almost made a mistake. Oh, you guys can barely see it. Sorry about that. So this will be 8. This will be -8. So these two triangles are -8. And this triangle will be, again, -4. And now, so this is 8, this is -8, right? Yes. So 8 plus 8 and -8, which is 8 minus 8 is 0. And 0 minus 4, -4. Again, -4. So, and because there's a subtraction, it will not be positive. G12, -4. So this is not the answer yet. And now, this part will be easy. Just don't worry about that. So, the question asks us to find the absolute minimum and absolute maximum. Let's start with the maximum. So, because we got -4 and 4, we don't know yet if that is both negative min and max because they're the equal sign, equal number. So, because we tried both and doesn't mean that there's no answer in the between. So, let's try out between. Because we know every single triangles are 4, we just have to calculate ourselves how many triangle, which x value has the most triangle in it. So, and at this point, because it is 2 to the x, for you to consider, x has to be at the top, and if x is changing to negative, for example, if we're putting number lower than 2, this has to be negative. So you have to consider that too. That is like the harder part. So, let's see. I will ignore the all value, the x value that are lower than or smaller than 2. So lower than 2. So I'm ignoring all this part. And starting from here, which x value has the most triangles? That will be 6 because it has 2 triangles. I'm ignoring all this part because I don't want to consider negatives. Until 6. Until 6, there are 2 triangles, which is 8, right? Oh, I found value bigger than -4. Duh. 6 is equal to 8. And as you look at it, if we go farther and farther, we meet more negative triangles, that will decrease this 8 value. So, and now it's our turn to find relative mean. We have figured out that 12 is -4, so we're done with the number greater than 2 because -12, if just considering the number that is greater than 2, -12 has the least possible value. So let's ignore now the number greater than 2. Now let's focus on number less than 2. For number less than 2, you just start like this. This will really help you. Do you get it? So from here, because I know I'm just going to consider about 2, lower than 2, so I just put negative first and change it. Now because, until here, it's x to 2 and just put minus, that means if we find the biggest value that is possible from x to 2, then that will be negative and become the lowest number. So let's find the biggest value from x to 2. So now I'm ignoring all these sides and just focusing on these sides that I just covered before. So we're finding positive. So we're finding the most biggest possible value, because if we multiply negative in front, it will be the least possible value, the lowest possible value. So when we look at it, so we're ignoring all these sides, we can see there are 2 positive triangles and 1 negative triangle. That means we don't want to count for this and just go with this 2, right? So we plug it in. -2 to 2, ft dt. See, -2 from -2 to 2, it is 4, 4, 8, because each triangle is 4, like I said, 4, 4, 8. However, because of that, -8. And we know if we included 4, it will be negative and -4. So if it was -4 to 4 and -4 to 2, it will be -4. See, -2 to 2 is bigger. And if we did 0 to 2, it will only be -4 again, because it's only 0 to 2 minus. And if it was 2 to 2, it will be 0 because the upper limit and lower limit is the same. So g of negative 2 is negative 8. Answer for number 6 and letter C, the part C will be x equal to 6 and x equal to negative 2. And you better write all this chart for you to help yourself to justify your answer easily. That was part C. Part D. Part D says for intervals between negative 4 and 12, find all intervals for which g of x is less than or equal to 0. Less than or equal to 0. As you can see, we're just finding a negative value, a 0 or negative value of g of x. This is exactly repeating the process we did in part C. So first, let's look at again. Let's divide part between number greater than 12, greater than 2 and less than 2. So I will divide in 2. So g of x greater than 2, it will go here. G of x less than 2, which will be, because I'm repeating again, it will be like that, because I'm switching, because lower number, ft dt. So this will be the number greater than 2, this will be the number less than 2. So for number greater than 2, because it says between the interval negative 4 and 12, we just have to find the value that is less than or equal to 0, which is integral of this graph f. As you can see, from 2 to 10, from 2 to 6, it is positive. That's not less than 0, so that's not applicable. From 2 to 8, it is still 4 because this and this triangle cancels out and this triangle leaves behind, which is 4, so it's still positive, so that's not applicable. However, when we look at 10, as you can see, it's like really easy. This triangle cancels out and it becomes 0. And it says interval for which g of x is less than or equal to. G of x is less than or equal to 0. Right now at 10, it is equal to 0. And when we move to 12, the given point, it is now negative because the triangle is below the x-axis. So the first we found is 10. That is the first interval we got. That is less than or equal to 0. Now second interval. Because we have the minus in front, we can just think easily. Just ignoring the minus, because we have the minus, we just have to find the positive value here. Because of the negative, if we find the positive value, it will turn into negative by multiplying negative. That is easy, right? So from x to 2, something value from negative 4 to 2, the number has to be positive. As you can see, this chart on the positive x-axis, the triangle above the x-axis, there are two triangles, so it will be 8, and the triangle below the x-axis, there's negative 4, only one triangle. That means any given value, any value in the interval negative 4 to 2, it will be always positive, because even though we include negative 4, this triangle will cancel out this and be still positive with this single triangle from 0 to 2. So, and if you're confused right now, see, if we do this and it becomes 4, right? So from negative 4 to 2, it'll be 4. However, in the minus front, it will become negative 4. So because it's negative, it's less than 0. Thus, it'll be that. If you're curious, try out everything, but never forget to write negative because this changes everything. So the answer for part D is D as a dog, is these two answers. And it says, it doesn't say justify your answer, so you just need to show your work, how you got it, like this and this, that will be enough, and write this and this down. And then if you write these two intervals, that will be fine. And this question D, or problem D, or part D, sorry about that, was 2 points, worth 2 points. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video was helpful.